Hello, book buddies, and happy Passover to all of my book buddy friends out there. Miss Evelyn has a beautiful story today, Mrs. Katz and Tush. The author is Patricia Polacco. Let's get started with our book. Every day, Larnell's mother stopped by Mrs. Katz's house to visit her. Mrs. Katz lived all alone since her husband died. Larnell and his mom went to check on her every day. She was sad. Her Myron was no longer with her. She said, "This year I'll be all alone for Hanukkah and Passover." Then she began to cry. The next day, Larnell went by to see her. "I've been thinking," he said. "We have a cat in our basement, and she had kittens. Would you like to have one? She doesn't have a tail, and she's not pretty." "Oh," Mrs. Cat said, "I can see her little tush. I think I'll take her and call her Tush." That was very nice of Larnell. Larnell said, "She'll keep you company when you're sitting in your chair thinking about your husband." "Thank you, Larnell." She was very appreciative. Mrs. Katz loved Tush. She knitted toys for her. She read stories to her. And she even played with her. She loved Tush very much. She had an old sewing machine and she made all kinds of things just for Tush. One thing Larnell loved going over Mrs. Tush's house for were her delicious kugel. There's a kugel there with milk. Every day he would stop by for one of her delicious kugels. One day Mrs. Tush went in her trunk and pulled out the old clothes that she and her husband used to wear in Poland. She said we would dance and have such a good time in the Catskills. Oh, yes, we had a good time in our homeland. One day, Larnell and Mrs. Katz went to the cemetery where her husband was buried. They put stones on top of his grave. That made Mrs. Tush happy and sad. But when they got home, the window was open and Tush was gone. "Oh no," said Mrs. Katz. "My little Boobala, she's gone. I'll never see her again." "Don't worry," Larnell said. "We'll find her." They went all over the neighborhood, passing out signs and flyers, asking if anyone had seen Tush. "My poor little Katila. Oh, I hope we find her." One day someone knocked at the door. It was Larnell's dad and some neighbors. "Mrs. Katz, does this little one belong to you?" "My little Katila. We found her in the alley. She's cold and wet." Oh, Mrs. Katz was so happy. She hugged Larnell. She hugged him so tight. Larnell asked if he could have Passover dinner with her. "I thought you would never ask. Such a cedar I'll prepare for you." And there's Tush, all happy to be home. Larnell and Mrs. Katz went to the neighborhood deli. They bought all kinds of food to eat. This celebration is called a feast. It's for Passover. And how did the angels know which Jew's house to pass over and where to stay? Because the angel marked the door, and they knew that they could go over this house and not harm anyone. Mrs. Katz went home and put her beautiful tablecloth on the table along with her dishes. "Why do you have so many dishes?" Larnell asked. "Because some Jews don't eat dairy and meat off of the same dishes," she said. Oh, I see. Larnell learned so much about Mrs. Katz and her traditions. They drank water and they ate bitter herbs and lamb and chicken. "This bread looks like soda cracker," said Larnell. "It's called matzah. It doesn't have yeast in it, so it doesn't rise. It's flat." Mrs. Katz made a beautiful sweater also for Larnell. They had become such good friends. The next day, Mrs. Katz came back to the apartment window and said, "Come quick! Hurry, hurry! Everyone came running. Tush had babies. Oh, now I will be a grandma, said Mrs. Katz. When Larnell grew up, he and his wife always visited Miss Katz, and when she was no longer there, they went to her grave and put pebbles on. So, book buddies, you don't have to look the same. You don't have to be the same age. Just be friends with everyone and love everyone and have respect for everyone. Like Mrs. Katz and Tush. Happy Passover. I'll see you next time on Storytime with Miss Evelyn. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to thumbs up. Don't forget to wash your hands.